In the early hours of November 29, 1954, the Cuban Gustavo Gonzalez and his assistant, the Caracas-born José Ponce, had stopped at the door of the National Sheffer sausage industry to load their gender van, as they used to do. Early morning. Suddenly, Buena Vista Street, which was totally dark, lit up in a surprising way as if it were broad daylight. Gonzalez stopped the vehicle and both friends saw that the source of that light was a spherical object. It was floating low in the middle of the road. Immediately, they observed how a furry and monkey-like creature, wearing a round helmet that showed two small bright eyes, approached them. Almost instinctively, Gustavo advanced towards the little monster and grabbed it tightly with the intention of capturing it and introducing it into the truck. Man and unknown entity struggled for a few seconds, but that strange being managed to escape by jumping like a cat and away from his attacker. Sharp claws. However, instead of fleeing, the creature pounced on Gustavo Gonzalez, who took a knife out of his pocket and tried to stab him. But the weapon slipped on its back, hairy and hard as steel. Then, from the interior of the flying object, which was still floating in the middle of the street, two humanoids jumped like the first one, approaching both contenders, possibly to help their fellow in distress. At that moment the Cuban transporter realized the madness he had committed. In addition, the entity he had tried to capture had sharp claws on each of the four fingers of his hands, with which he could easily tear the flesh. Meanwhile, José Ponce, who remained terrified inside the vehicle, took courage and decided to leave. He soon saw a fourth creature running up a hill, carrying a heap of earth in his hands. The humanoid went to the bright sphere and jumped almost 2 meters high, as if it were a cat, to enter an opening in the upper part of the ship. When all the little monsters managed to get safely inside the flying sphere, one of them leaned out of the hollow and pointed to the two horrified men with a long, shiny tube. Gustavo Gonzalez and José Ponce felt a vibration that shook their bodies and, immediately, they were totally paralyzed, which did not prevent them to see how the creature disappeared inside the hatch of the ship. Seconds later, the flying object rose into the night sky and disappeared into the blackness, becoming a very bright star. Both deliverymen fled the race, taking refuge in the building of the Petare Transit Office, located on the same street where the disconcerting event had taken place. After drinking a little water and recovering energy, Gonzalez narrated what happened to the prosecutors on duty, Manuel Moreno and E. Dominguez. Later, both jurists would declare that the witnesses entered the province at 2:30 in the morning, adding that they were not drunk or showed symptoms of mental derangement. In an examination that is made to them in the headquarters, there are bruises on the left side of the body of the Cuban Gustavo Gonzalez, who struggled with these strange beings. The next day, respectable neighbors of the zone and of Caracas in general give testimony of having observed an incandescent flying object, or a UFO as we would call it today, at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning flying over the area. Because it was a case, which we would classify as encounter of the third type at the moment and its importance, a member of the Flying Saucers Research Society whose headquarters was in Brooklyn, New York, is interested in the case. His name, José Gonzalez, waits and turns the meeting into a case of international relevance. We must emphasize that due to the date in which these events occur, the media contamination, or by the cinematography, with descriptions, cases, etc. They were almost non-existent. At that time in Venezuela the UFO theme was not common, so thanks to this we can endorse or give greater credibility to the facts of that day, ruling out the creation of a joke, because the details agree with descriptions that they occur all over the world today. The veracity of this case has been proven by many, however this case has been buried in the oblivion of the Venezuelans. This is the story of the strange case of Petare, one of the most shocking cases of extraterrestrial contact in the history of South America.